In the loud house, one boy, 10 girls wouldn't trade it for the world. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode of StillerBros at the Movies at home. For now, this is completely unrelated to the pandemic.
Yeah.
We're trying something new with a microphone so that maybe things can be a little bit louder for an at-home episode, so that we can actually do these more often.
Ironically, we are watching the Loud House movie.
So, the Loud House. I've been waiting to talk about this forever, really. This is a show we've kind of geeked out over for the last 5 or so years since it's been on the air. So, The Loud House. It's a show on Nickelodeon that's airing right now, and one of the big things about it is that it's the first Nicktoon in a long time to break the SpongeBob curse.
It even beat SpongeBob in the ratings for a couple times, and it's shown humongous success. Not obviously in the weight of SpongeBob, where it's still a merchandising juggernaut and everything, but it's kind of a surprise sleeper hit.
Basically, it's one of those shows that kind of exists and is incredibly popular in its market, but you never really see a huge explosion for it. There's no like live tours, toys on shelves all over the place. There's not like a $1 billion merchandising industry. It's just popular enough that it's consistently doing incredibly well doing decently in the ratings, but not so popular that you got people kind of rolling all over themselves to get to match its success.
Yeah, and about 3 years ago, to the point that it was actually kind of surprising, about 3 years ago when they announced that they were making a movie.
So, when the movie was announced, we kind of had one question in our minds: how do you make a movie out of this?
Because it's basically just a slice of life show where you have a boy and 10 sisters. That's the gimmick.
The gimmick. They label it as a fantasy on cable listings, but I think the most fantastical part is the part where it's like 11 siblings in a house. That's about it, and even then, it's not that fantastical.
Yeah, but they still had a theatrical movie in the works for a little while until events, which we're not going to hugely talk about. You can Google it if you really want to know, but events. This was originally going to come out in theaters when it was initially announced, and then after a certain amount of time, we were worried that it probably wasn't ever going to happen.
Then about maybe a year and a half ago, they finally announced, "Hey, the movie's coming. We bumped it off the schedule, but we fixed it. But it's back. We fixed it. We're going to finally put it out. We're just not going to put it out in theaters.
It is coming to Netflix, which had nothing to do with the pandemic before. It was going to come straight to Netflix before the pandemic happened, but now it's out on Netflix, and it's looking like this might be the beginning and end of Nickelodeon's deal with Netflix, with the 2 movies that they put out and the 2 shows that they put out.
So, what is this movie about is the main question that we had when going into this. It's not that it was impossible to make a movie out of this, but
it's hard to make something that warrants a movie with just a simple basis rooted in reality.
I mean, this is the kind of show that continuity is not a thing that they play with. They didn't actually do anything. They didn't introduce anything you would call continuity until about halfway through season 2, and even then, they didn't take it seriously until about the beginning of season 4.
Yeah, and now they're on season 5, and they're actually hitting continuity pretty hard, which makes a little bit of sense, given the fact that the show has kind of changed and evolved since season 3.
Yeah, and with the fact that but even with the fact that they're playing with continuity, it basically only extends to remembering that this event took place, so that we don't have to write another, so that we can remember that we don't not to make another episode based on this particular character with this particular set of circumstances.
Yeah, But now we have a movie, and the movie is kind of an interesting direction that they decided to go with.
Because because the question that on our minds when making the movie was, how do you make a cinematic story out of a series where where the biggest plot points, the biggest most epic plot point is, oh no, my friend is moving away from me. What do I do?
And so we have the Loud House movie, which we spent so long speculating on because we didn't know the plot for the longest time until maybe like 7-8 months ago.
So the plot is that the characters from the Loud House, Lincoln Loud and his 10 sisters and his parents, go to Scotland and they learn about their family history. And so how do you make a movie out of that? Well, you turn it into a musical first off. There's about 9 original songs in this.
You also add magic and mythical stuff because it's a movie, and the show has really started to move away a little bit from the grounded stuff where they've had a lot of supernatural elements added in.
Not in a let's ruin this show by making supernatural points a big deal kind of way, but in a it's a kids show, so let's just play with reality here and there and then not reference it again.
Yeah, but
and then also high tier guest stars.
Yeah, we have David Tennant playing a role in this,
and then fellow Scott and Doctor Who alum Michelle Gomez playing the villain.
Yeah,
not a spoiler. She's clearly designed and marketed to be the villain.
Yeah, but I really don't have much to say. We really don't have much to say on this. There's just so little we can say about the actual idea of it right now.
Yeah, we've gone through the entire history and a lot of the stuff we wanted to say, and I think we've pretty much got it covered. This video is probably going to be a lot shorter than the others, but then again, most of our at-home episodes are.
Yeah.
So, we'll see you guys after the jump.
Yep.
Alright, so, now that that's over, I was honestly pleasantly surprised by how good it was.
It was actually really, really good.
Not that we expected it to be bad, it's just that we didn't expect it to be to be as good as it was.
Yeah. It's a movie based on a cartoon, and how good can it actually be? And it turns out pretty good.
So let's get into it. The director, David Needham, has never directed a movie before. He has never even directed an episode of a TV show, or even this particular TV show before, but I think he did a pretty decent job at it. He got the story beats, the animation looks very close.
It is a pretty adequate step up to what a feature to where it would go. It's a lateral move to where a feature film would go.
Particularly things like lighting and movement and stuff like that. It feels very much like the cinematic equivalent to what this particular cartoon would be.
Whereas this cartoon has obviously has a very static camera because animation costs money, and in a TV budget, you're not exactly moving the camera. This has actual big moving shots where you can see things move,
and of course the characters are just the same as they are, mostly because one of the writers Kevin Sullivan is the story editor now on the show. So basically, if they're consistent, he would probably be a big part of why.
Yeah.
The musical numbers are very fun and energetic. They're a little poppy at times, but they're a little too poppy at times. But we gotta remember, it's a kid. We're basically judging it by kids movie standards. Not to say that kids movies need to automatically be bad.
We're not grading on a curve. We're just to say we're not grading on a curve, but we understand that quality is not always going to be first priority when it comes to children's entertainment. Even though, again, this is pretty good this is a pretty good movie for what it is.
I feel like David Tennant in particular was having a lot of fun with his character. It's fun to see him in these kinds of roles where he just gets to be an animated character.
Yeah, like obviously we had a lot of DuckTales flashbacks.
Also because that just happened.
Yeah. Also, I kind of want to point out we're probably gonna avoid being mean a little bit, just because I feel like for whatever reason a member of the crew could stumble upon this at any point.
Yeah, we don't want to be too mean, especially since we liked the movie, guys.
We really liked the movie. It was very fun. It was a great little.
Though I think if I've got one major criticism to lob at it, at the risk of sounding too gatekeepy, this is a movie basically only made if you've actually watched the show.
I feel like it would be a little difficult to jump into blind. It doesn't really. There's references to stuff that you would know if you actually watched the show, but it doesn't seem. It really doesn't seem like it would be something that would be only for fans to jump into. Like, it feels like it's very accessible, but it really feels like if you're a fan, you'll probably enjoy it a lot more than if you were not a fan jumping in watching this for the first time before watching the show.
Basically, if you only got this movie because you forgot to hit skip after finishing a season of She-Ra, then you might be not as great off as you would be if you were watching this specifically because you like the show.
Yeah. Fortunately, we liked the show, so we jumped into this and loved every second of it, including all the little references to the show.
Yeah, we are the kinds of guys who have watched literally every episode of this and its spin-off at least once. So we pretty much know a lot of the stuff. Like, even a little random background, even a background character who would probably be random to most people, we recognize because obviously she has an actual pathos in the show, but she doesn't even get a line or actually get named on camera in this.
Also, we know what certain crew members' avatars would be, like pointing out the Ginger Jordan Rosado.
Which makes sense since she was one of the ones that came over to storyboard parts of this.
Yeah.
And of course all the little places where they put the theme song, the characters are fun. It's a fun. There's actual action beats, which is something that you don't get in the series because, like we said earlier, it's basically a slice of life. So there's not. Basically, this is not like a Gravity Falls or an Owl House or something like that, where they will have a bit where they'll spend an entire season building up to something and then finally big action set piece to put it all together. It's
an episodic show, so obviously anything we're getting, this is probably the biggest scale we're ever going to see these characters in.
And whether or not, and obviously, and in the coming week, and in the weeks leading up to this, there was a bit of a thing on Twitter where people who like the Loud House were like, "Is it canon? Is it canon? Is it canon?" Here's something. It doesn't matter.
It really does not matter because this is not a show where you should give a shit about the canon.
It's like I said, the canon on this show is essentially let's remember that this happened so that we don't have to basically remake this episode with this exact same character.
So we're not getting the Simpsons situation when this thing runs for however long it ends up running, where it's basically like, didn't they make that episode like 10 years ago?
Yeah. But yeah, this is a really good. But yeah, for a movie based on the Loud House, this is a really good version of it. We didn't know what to expect going in because we didn't know what a cinematic equivalent to these characters, to these stories would be, but it's fun. I'm sure the kids who watch the show would like it. I'm sure any of the adults who watch the show would like it.
It's a very fun family movie. Like, if you're at home and you have kids and you like want to put something on, there are worse things to put on to get your kids to shut up.
Even on Netflix.
Yeah.
Even on Netflix, there are things that Netflix just kind of pulled. Anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much it for right now. I don't know what else we need to say.
There's really not much to say. When something just works, it works.
It just works, and for that, I think we really need to give credit where credit is due and just say, yeah, the crew of the show, the crew of the movie, they did a good job.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely something to watch if this is your kind of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, guys, that's it for right now. Hopefully it'll be a while before we do another at-home video.
Yeah.
So be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and don't forget to tune in next time. We're going to take the next week off, but be sure to tune in next time when... Is this what you wanted? Bye.
Bye.